Today we have the DeLo with us. Thanks for stopping by. So you have an extensive entrepreneur career. You've been a business owner for over 20 years, and your background, your history, to say the least, it's very, very peculiar. So I want to tap into all of that stuff. I think this conversation is going to go into 100 different ways, and I can't wait for it. Thank you for being on board, man.
Well, thank you for having me. I know we just met, a couple weeks ago?
Yeah.
And obviously we were in a group that creates a kinship, because you're already in that group. So it's like-minded people that enjoy like-minded things. And we were just chatting, and you're like, "Hey, I got a podcast." I'm like, "Cool, let's talk." So here we are.
Let's do it. Yeah. Right up my alley. So happy to have you. So I'm going to start off with a little bit of the professional side, but I mean, there's so many different things that I want to talk to you about, including mindset, including meditation, including the balance between the professional and the lifestyle.
Yeah.
And the one connection. I mean, there's just so many things that I want to break into, But your background, coming from a professional standpoint, right now you own an insurance company that specializes in bar and restaurants, right?
Right, hospitality, niche boutique insurance agency.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, right on. So how did 20 years in as a business owner and running pretty much your own thing, how did that come about?
Well, it came about from a very young age. As a kid, I always grew up and I had this love for music.
Mm-hmm.
And being a child of the 80s, for me it was Michael Jackson, Lionel Richie, and then the mighty Van Halen.
Oh,
those are the first three records I ever bought. So I'm 46, so you can only imagine back in 1984, I'm this kid that's wet behind the ears, 10, 11 years old, and I get my first record, which is 1984 by Van Halen. And I had never heard anything like it. And I had, next thing I know, I have posters of all these hair bands, all this stuff. And that was my world. I love music. I was so infatuated with it. I'm like, I'm literally staring at a picture of Eddie Van Halen on my wall. And I remember it as if I'm sitting there today, because it was such a instrumental moment in I would say it was probably one of my first meditations of just laying there listening to the music and looking at Eddie and being like, I will meet him one day, and you get excited as a kid, and these people, they have these auras, even though they're just humans like the rest of us, but when you're little, you don't realize that. You see them in the spotlight, you're like, that's cool. So that was my first real meditation to say I'm going to do that. And fast forward not even 20 years, maybe 10, 11, 12 years later, I'm working for Warner Brothers Records. I'm working for Eddie Van Halen.
Wow.
So I worked the last record they did.
Early mid-20s?
Yeah, I'm 22. Right around there. And I get an internship at ASU with Warner Brothers Records, and on Warner Brothers is Van Halen. That's one of their artists. And so they released an album which most people don't like, but at the time I didn't give a shit. I'm like, this is Van Halen, this is cool. Sorry if I can't cuss.
No, you're good.
So
no holdbacks.
Cool. So I end up working for them. They had a lead singer at the time, Gary Sharon, so it wasn't David Lee Roth or Sammy Hagar or any of that, but it was okay for me, because it was something that I put into my spectrum of, just of my mind, that this was going to happen, and I created it, and it happened, and here I am hanging out with Eddie and doing all this, and if people don't know, as of yet, it was very sad on October 6th that Eddie passed away. Mm-hmm. So it was just such an integral part of my livelihood and my ability to realize that I could really manifest anything that I thought of. I was just this 10-year-old kid in Atlanta, Georgia, laying in this, bed listening to Eddie Van Halen, now working for him out in Phoenix, Arizona.
Man, insane. Now, there's always a two worlds, right? To visualization, to manifestation, and I just know we're gonna go into a rabbit hole in a heartbeat.
Right.
But it's between those during those 10 years, what happened? Was that something that you just kind of held vividly in your mind? Did you feel like you had to go back and kind of remind yourself that that's where you wanted to end up with, or was it something just kind of happen out of that original?
It's a great question, and I don't really have a good answer for it. I do know, with my experience of now and understanding where I'm at now, that the subconscious really is always playing a part, whether we realize it or not. Whatever thoughts or whatever things that we hold in the back of our mind, if we state them to be true, there's an eventuality to that trueness, whether it be for something good or for something bad. You know, is there a black and white to anything out there? No, there's just conscious and subconscious. So we get so busy through our day in and day out. You know, I'm busy going to high school at this time. I'm busy going to college. I'm busy, you know, moving from Atlanta to Phoenix. You know, so all this stuff's going on, and it's not like, okay, wow, you know, that was my one thing that was going to happen. It would manifest, but the drive and the passion and the love for music was always there. The drive and passion to want to work in the record industry and want to be in music was always there. So when you add all those things up and you put them into a nice little package of constant focus and meditation on that sort of thing, then the subconscious stuff starts to come true and it starts to happen. I didn't have to be sitting at ASU inside this class hall of, you know, call it 200 people in business ethics class to have the professor come out and say, hey, by the way, if anybody's interested, we have an internship with Warner Brothers, and I'm the guy that gets it. Right.
Yeah, no, it's all connected. And we were just, right before we started rolling, we were talking about this, how you know, different points, energy. I mean, even when you look at plants, and you have this other thing that I'm going to ask you about, which is you're big into gardening and plants and having that. And you were mentioning right now that it's not about the planting, it's not about the growing, but it's about the overall cycle of life energy that goes into it. I mean, I think that everything that we do, it doesn't have to be tangible. We don't have to sit there and look at it and feel it, you know, sitting in our hands for it to be real.
Right. And so we're all gardeners. We're all gardeners of the mind. We're all gardeners of the soul. We're all gardeners of, you know, the physical aspects of business, of things that we want to do. We're all gardeners of how we grow our children if we have them. You know, so we're always planting seeds. We're always doing things, and we're watching those seeds, you know, come to these beautiful plants that, you know, people love in amazement, or maybe these plants that don't do so well and die, and then we have to go and plant other seeds. So that's always going on. So for me, gardening is a hobby, but it's a hobby in the essence that it has a true meaning. And so when I'm able to look at my plants and go out and, you know, talk to them every day and feel the love, and then know, I mean, I didn't know, I had no idea how a cauliflower or asparagus or a pepper or a carrot or any of this stuff. I kind of knew a carrot, that's obvious, but, you know, a lot of this stuff, I didn't even know how it grew. Like you until you really physically see it, and you go out every day and you see this little pod and the seed turns into this sprout, and the sprout grows up, and then you see this flower and you're like, oh, that's a cool flower. And the next thing you know, the flower's got a squash coming out of it this big, and you're like, holy crap, like this is life. And then you take that life, you take the life and you kill it. And then you take that.
You eat it.
And then you eat it, and then it sustains you, and it gives you that energy and that soul, and there's just that. And so as grim and as eerie as it sounds, you know, as we get older, we can come to the understanding that, okay, we know for a fact we're all going to die. Right. Something's going to happen. Nobody knows what happens after that. You can have that perspective, and not to get so deep on a CEO podcast, but at the end of the day, the more that you can be in tune with understanding the process, which is what I'm trying to do, I think down the road, as you start having these hardships of losing family members, of losing, you know, pets, of losing, you know, whatever it is, you're not losing anything.
Right.
You know, it's a very emotional pattern to have to go through, but I think there's a lot of work that goes into that. And so that's the work that I'm doing now, because I'm very close, you know, with a lot of people. And I don't like to see somebody lose, or I for my selfish reasons, I don't want to lose that physical aspect of them in this dimension, but I also, I need to come to terms that in an aspect of life, it's always regenerating, you know? And that's why gardening is so special.
That's a beautiful way of looking at it. I mean, you have to keep the ground fertile. You have to keep attention, you know, coming back in the awareness just of it being there, two of you being there for it. And I, not too long ago, man, I was reading a passage. I mean, we don't really belong anywhere, right? It's not, and I remember it saying we don't really belong anywhere, and what it meant by that was that we're all just kind of passing through. And I think oftentimes, especially for people who are business owners, CEOs, and I mean, we have that, you know, do or die mentality, it's easy to forget. It's easy to forget that a goal can at the end of the day not mean that much.
Yeah.
As happiness and joy.
So, getting into the world of business, yes to all of that, and I'm hoping at my prime age of my relationships and my business going well and all the things that I've built up and that interconnectivity, I'm learning this lesson now as opposed to later, say my dad's age. My dad's 72 and he has a lot of passion to live and do other things, but as much as he was great at his work and still is, but it was almost to a fault. He was so great at it that he let it be detrimental to his health and to his stress that he didn't enjoy it anymore. And so I think a lot of the enjoyment gets pulled out of people that are like, I gotta accomplish this goal. I gotta buy this new Rolls Royce. I gotta buy, that's cool if that's your thing. But for me, my perspective really was, I really need to dial back, and we have the same coach. I have a business coach that really has helped me through this. But we all need help. We all need a different perspective. We all need a voice, and whether it's that inner voice within through our meditations, whether it's talking to somebody, whether it's being part of a group, an entrepreneurial group like EO or a Vistage or any of that stuff, it's all great. Whatever works for you. There is no wrong in that. I just don't want to have the regret of always chasing the next best thing, always, I've been offered to have my company bought out several times and I'm flattered. It's great. Oh, dude, you get all this money and nothing will change. Bullshit. It all changes. So, don't ever don't ever let anybody tell you that nothing will change because it will change. So, to be in a point where, business, a lot of people, at times we can look at business as just very transactional. I need this,
Absolutely.
You have this, and thank you, peace out.
Yeah.
I'm not a transactional guy. I'm 100% relationship guy, and so I'm very blessed, but I've also worked very hard for 20 plus years to be in a situation that every business deal that I do has to come with a relationship and an emotion towards it, to where they have to have some sort of emotion towards me to know that I'm going to do everything I can to help them and be the best in my field for them for what they need. If that's not a value to them, then we're not a good fit because it just doesn't make sense,
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. It's to keep something in hindsight, right? As far as to where you want to get to, but also not lose yourself in the process.
Right.
That's happened to me before. I mean, I went through, I can say easily about 10 years of the first 10 years of me owning a business were that. Me getting transactional, A plus B equals C, and that's it. That's where the world ends. Yeah, chasing it. And guess what? Never got there.
Right.
Never got there. I was tired, I was beat, and I wasn't having the results I wanted to have. I mean, it's
the health suffered. I mean, all that stuff.
Yeah,
mental health,
exactly.
all that. Yeah, no, I get it.
Completely off balance. I mean, and it's not to say that it's impossible to get there that way. It's just not like now. It's not the type of approach that I
And again,
choose.
that's okay if that is your way and that's what you want to do and you want to work yourself to the bone. There's no right or wrong to life. It's however you want to do it. The unrationale comes into people that will sit there and complain about it.
Oh yeah,
and be like, oh, exactly. I'm so miserable, and it's like, cool, that's your choice. You know?
Exactly. I mean, if you want to do it that way, that's fine. But don't bitch about it. Come on, just either
do it differently. All good. So I mean, with having the business, I'm in the insurance industry. I have basically a commodity. It's not a big deal. Anybody can get insurance on the street corner. Who cares? But what I was able to do 18 years ago, I've been in insurance 23, but 18 years ago when I was out, after Warner Brothers and music business was sexy. I got gold platinum records. I've hung out with everybody from, Motley Crue to Aerosmith to Chili Peppers. I mean, you name it. I've met all these people and they all operate the same way I do. I mean, last time I checked, they go to the bathroom the same way. It's not a big deal. But it was a lot of fun and it was sexy at the time. And as a kid, you're like, whoa. And then you just kind of get numb to it. And then the reality sets in. Hey, the record business is going down the crapper because Apple came out with iTunes. They're not quite the jobs. It's not quite, it just, records weren't getting produced the same way and and artists weren't going on tour, and it
Year
was just a different
2000
mindset.
game changer.
Yeah, and I didn't want to be on tour the rest of my life and be traveling, and I'm very much a stationary person that likes to, just kind of, I'm very simple. It's hilarious. I have routines and this and that. The point I'm making is that when I got into insurance, I was selling insurance to junkyards. I mean, literally, there was a guy right down the road from here by the airport that had a junkyard and needed insurance. And it was like probably one of the most degrading situations I've ever put myself in my life, but I needed that situation to understand that that was not going to be for me. Selling home and auto policies, we do have a whole aspect to our business that's home and auto, but that was my dad's aspect of it, and that was building up the business through him and doing some other stuff. For me, I just never got a thrill out of selling somebody an automobile policy with Travelers. I'm like, okay, that's cool. I mean, I like the thrill of the communication and the relationship and earning business and making money. That was cool, but it wasn't the end all be all for me, and I couldn't see that being sustainable. So albeit we have a very successful side of that business, but I have other people that are passionate about that, run that, and then I help give my input from, a marketing standpoint. So 18 years ago, kind of 4 years into my insurance career, I'm like, what am I passionate about? Well, still music, still hospitality. At the time, booze. So I formed barandrestaurantinsurance.com. I mean, it was like, it wasn't taken. It was no brainer. It's like, okay, well, that's pretty much, I wasn't looking for any, like, yay, insurance guy that likes to drink. I wasn't looking for anything weird or quirky. Just real simple marketing plan. And that for anybody in their career, whether you're an insurance agent, real estate agent, I mean, whatever it is, when you niche yourself, you're either going to be amazingly great at it because you're going to go all out and do it, or you're gonna shit the bed, because you're gonna be like, oh my God, it's not happening this month. I'm gonna revert back. I never reverted back. I literally went from having one client to here I am, 18 years later of doing that, having over 200 clients that. And insurance can be very lucrative because it's a renewal process. And again, it's keeping those relationships. Now, it's a very volatile industry, so you're always kind of getting new, old's falling off, doing this and that. But I created a system.
Like everything else, you have to keep the ground
fertile.
Fertile.
The flow, yeah.
Yeah, got to keep it fertile, just like plants.
Totally. You're always fertilizing. You're always planting. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't. It's not business and I mean life altogether is not one of those things where you set it and forget it. It doesn't matter how permanent you think things are; they're always going to change. It's inevitably.
And what would you if you set it and you forget it? What would you do? Like I said, I've been offered to be bought out. Oh, you can stay on for 5 years, and then I'm 52 at that time. Maybe 51. Like, what am I going to do now?
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Well, you could do competitions like your dad. I just saw the picture that you posted. It's insane.
Yeah, he's pretty shredded. That's his retirement. Some people play golf. My dad, he's been working out for his whole life.
Go kick ass.
Yeah.
Win competitions.
Yeah, it's
shredded.
crazy. I've done two of them, and they're no fun. I'd rather go run. So I mean, for me, running and physical fitness and all that is a huge part of the interconnectivity of being successful in family, business, friendship, all that sort of stuff. So, when you say meditate, it doesn't necessarily have to be, I got to sit here for, 30 minutes and go, no, meditation is just about quieting the mind enough to listen to the silence and what comes through on that silence and to ask questions and get those answers. And so when I go run, especially on the trails, when I'm sitting and I'm looking at the trail and I'm looking at the rocks, and I'm concentrating in my conscious mind on that, my subconscious is just moving and all these things come out. And so you'll see a lot of videos I have running with the DeLo videos that I'll post on my Instagram. And those are all thoughts that come to me while, running. So I'll have my phone and I'll just kind of record it real quick, and then my company will produce it, and then we kind of put them out there. But they're all things that, just you don't just like sit in conversation necessarily and think about. It's stuff that just comes from the universe. And you're like, I want to share this.
The one real interesting thing that I found, in my experience, right? I think we all come to a point where things start to make sense. They start to click together. Production, relationships, your North Star, to call it anything, and then your sense of purpose, sense of meaning, which is, different things. But there comes a point where things just kind of, all right, cool. Everything's kind of floating around in this big cloud of things, and then they just start to connect, eventually. It's pretty cool that you say that you find it through running. I mean, it seems to be one of the things that kind of makes the whole thing work for you. For me, it's something similar. I mean, I'll work out and I'll space out. So if I'm working out or if I'm playing guitar, that's the two places where I'm not here. You see me, but I'm somewhere else.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, guitar is another one. Now, for me on guitar, like I'm literally concentrating on the instrument because I'm not that good at it. But it is a fun way to just kind of let your mind concentrate on one thing.
Right.
Yeah, then that's awesome, utilizing other aspects of your brain, which, in business, it's very difficult for me to concentrate on one thing at a time. I'm one of these guys with, 3 monitors. It's like, you'll be half on a phone call and check an email at the same time. And it's just, it's like, oh my God, how do I dial that in? But I at least know who I am,
Right, I can totally relate. So now I want to tap into a little bit of your mindset here. So, I mean, you obviously were somebody who had a lot of ideas, who had, a lot of pieces moving. How were you able to find the route of owning your own business and jumping into it? I mean, it's something that it's scary. When you're starting off, not a lot of people dive into it. They'll fiddle with it, but they usually, I mean, most people, there's a lot of attrition.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to get to.
Yeah.
But how was it for you?
So my first experience into the owning your own business world was freshly out of college, and I had finished my internship, and then I opened up a company called Diamond in the Rough. And Diamond in the Rough was a music marketing company. And I ended up, through my music interactions, I ended up linking up with a guy named Larry Mack. Larry is now the program director down in Tucson for the radio stations down there. Larry's a little bit older than me, but we developed this kinship, and him and I together would basically contact record labels, and this is back in the day when they actually had CDs and stickers and all sorts of promo items. We would contact record labels, and we would say, hey, for $200-300, we'll take your item for whatever, the new Korn record or Everlast or whatever it was, and we'll take this item and we'll put it inside a brown bag. We bought these brown bags at Costco for $15 for 1,000 of them, and the record labels would send us their stuff, and we would fill these I would get interns from ASU to fill the bags inside of my dad's house. You would have this production line, and then all the bags would go into a pickup truck, and we would literally go down to the Coliseum down here at the State Fair, back the truck up, and as soon as everybody came out, we just give these bags out, and they were gone within 10 minutes. Point being is, it was my first experience of like creating something that was an actual business. And so at $200-300 a pop, I mean, you do the math, you get about 15-20 items in there. You're making pretty damn good money. You have zero labor, you have a little bit of gas to drive down there, and the
absolutely.
bags, that's it, Yeah. And so the record labels loved it. We would take pictures and send in reports, and people grabbing the stuff, and they had these expense accounts, and that was nothing to them at the time.
That's social media before it was social.
That's exactly it. It was guerrilla marketing. So we had a guerrilla marketing company, and it did very well, for many years. And then it just got to a point for me where I had always noticed my dad was doing well in insurance, and like I said, the music industry was going a different direction. So I went in and I started working insurance with him. And then, after many, let's just say, reiterations of the company, finally it was just him and I and an ex-wife. And she was eventually gone. And then I just went to my dad and I said, I can't, we got to figure this out. So I bought the company from him about 12 years ago. But that whole time, I was building the bar and restaurant brand of Ambassador Group. So I owned my own book of business. I was bringing in my own business. I was doing my own marketing, but I just kind of had merged Ambassador Group in with what I was doing, and now I'm the sole owner of the whole thing. So it's definitely challenging. And yeah, I've learned so many lessons over the years as far as we want a lot of salespeople. Now I don't want any salespeople. I want to be service heavy. I want and these people want to know if they can. What kind of health insurance they get, what kind of 401ks they get. I mean, all these questions us as entrepreneurs get asked, and and you don't know the answers right away, and then you ask those questions to other people maybe a million times until you get the answer that you want, just realizing that you're never going to get the answer that you want. It just is what it is.
Well, I think a lot of it too is trial and error, man. Now I have a picture in my head of the type of business that I want to run. And I currently own 3 companies and with pretty lean stuff and effective teams and that sort of thing. But it took me a long time to figure that out, to see that was a fit for me. I mean, coming into it, I automatically thought, all right, if I want to do more business and make more money, I have to hire more. Hence, expenses go up. But I mean, it's not necessarily the case. There's so many different ways that you can skin the cat. I mean, you're being super creative and in an industry that's somewhat old school.
Yeah,
and I mean, you're giving it your twist. You're bringing that life of relationships kind of back into it, and it works. It works well.
Well, let me play on that, because I get yelled at by my peers that are part of very successful agencies that are your suit and tie guys, and they're probably 15, 20 years older than me, but they'll see me on the news and I'll be dressed like this, a picture of myself, and it's not a disrespect thing, it's just who I am.
It's you.
And it's my clientele. If I walked into a suit to Cold Beer's Cheeseburgers or to Whiskey Row or something like that, they'd look at me like, dude, what are you trying to sell us? See, it's not about selling people anything for me. It's about, again, that relationship and that trust, and the fact that if shit does hit the fan with the liquor liability or somebody gets in a fight, they know that I have their bases covered. Yeah.
Yep. You said something really important too, like earlier about having stuff and things happen within your business, and then you coming in and then being an advisor from the marketing standpoint. I just kind of put a mental pin on that. But it tells me that you're looking at things from the 100-foot view, which I think is one of the most important things that any owner can do. Right? It's if you're in it. It's really hard to see the big picture. And is that something that you kind of transitioned into, or did you have always that in first of mind?
Yeah. So for my own business, I think it was always a natural, and my job wasn't just sales, but it was also business development, which turns into sales. And so when somebody would ask me to go have a cup of coffee, whether I wanted to do it or not, I knew I needed to do it. I knew I needed to give that attention and that time. Now, I do have to be a bit more selective with my time due to there's only a set limit of time, and there's a lot of people that I've created a niche that are now reaching out to me. They find me, so I have to be a little bit careful of that. But before, it was like anybody and everybody I could talk to or wanted to talk to me. Yes. Yeah, you just do all that. And so
it's a trench work.
It is, and it's not just for my business, but when I'm doing that, I'm doing it for others that do business with me. So I'll get just as many phone calls on things that are not even insurance related. Do you know a good, real estate agent for commercial? Do you know a good attorney for liquor? Do you know a good consultant for this? Do you know? And people look at me as a Rolodex or a resource because they already trust me. So if I give them somebody, then they know they can trust them too. And again, it's the whole, but the satisfaction I get is knowing that those people that I'm able to send over to them, are going to take care of them, and in some way, they're going to better their business, because when their business is more successful and their revenues are good and they're happy, it all stems down. It all helps all of us. So again, it's just like maintaining the garden, and
same thing, full cycle.
Full cycle.
Man, that analogy it's amazing. It makes perfect sense. And I hadn't looked at it that way. I mean, from everything that you get out of that particular process. Plug it in and apply it anywhere, right?
Yeah.
So through your 20 years of experience, owning businesses, dealing with people, creating relationships, and then thinking outside the box, because that's definitely one of your fortes. What are, let's say, I don't know, maybe top 3 things that kind of come to mind that you would tell somebody starting off in business as an owner?
Never be late. Always respect others' time. Understanding that time is even a more valuable asset than money. So that's one thing. That's just one of my things. I've always been 10 minutes early for everything, and I'll sit in the car and wait. Like I did when I got here. I was a half hour early here, but that's another story. Yeah. So never be late, because it just shows from the very beginning a respect factor. I honestly believe that. Number two, believe in yourself, and if you don't know the answer, if you feel, just don't ever feel like you have to give an answer that you don't 100% really know. Always, come back with, I don't know, but I'll find out the answer. Don't make shit up.
Let me get back to you on that.
Yeah, let me get back to you on that. Never, I guess what kind of goes with that is just don't feel intimidated. It's okay to not know an answer. None of us are perfect. It's quite okay, So that kind of goes with maybe the third point, which is in hand, realizing that at the end of the day, we're all human. So don't think for a minute when you're walking into a meeting, especially as a new person, and whether you're selling something or this and that you have any idea or understanding what they're thinking whatsoever. Don't walk in thinking, oh God, this is going to be a tough meeting, or oh God, and I know that's hard, and I've done that for a multitude of years, and still, even having done insurance for 20-something years, I'll have to literally take a breath, calm my mind, and understand that the person across from the table, that you're there for a reason. You're there to shine, to show them what you have, and not to be intimidated by that. And I think that's one of the biggest things that can really eat at a person, especially new, where they're just like, oh my God, what if I don't get this? It's not the end of the world. There's something else and another door that will open up.
That's you're making a very interesting point here. I think it's very important, because I've fallen into that trap countless times before, and it's feeling that pressure, like you have to do something, extraordinary to make that moment work. Coming into that meeting, or sitting down with that and actually the best thing to do is put yourself there, because at the end of the day, you are the value, right?
Just be you.
You are the value.
Right.
You're the X factor.
That's it. They're buying you. They're not buying the copier. They're buying you. And if you go in kind of like this, and you're already not passionate about what you do, you might be in the wrong thing. It might just be a transaction even for you as a person going out. And that's okay. Sometimes we have to go through stepping stones to realize what our true passion is. But again, I'll use the P word all day long. Passion, passion, passion. Live your passion, breathe it, take it in, because that's how I've sold.
It's a spark.
Yeah.
It's a spark.
And here I am selling liquor liability insurance to people, and they're like, okay, cool, this is cool, like, thank you for taking care of, like, because it's not a transaction, it's it's something that I really enjoy and I love. And when you can make insurance interesting, holy shit, you make anything interesting.
You have talent, brother.
Yeah, 100%. Like,
yeah, it's hard to come to terms, at least it was for me, to understand that, it's perfectly fine, it's perfectly okay to be me. I don't have to, show up and then, lead with the features and benefits. It's, and that's normally what happens during every business transaction. I think right now we're in a transitional era where all of that it's still important. People still want to know what they're gonna get the best bang for the buck, but it's not necessarily what they're looking for. Right out of the gate. It's more of features and benefits. You can get that, in 1,000 different places for any industry.
Right.
For example, if you look at my brokerage, I can go to any broker. They're probably going to offer, around the same stuff.
Yeah.
But it's not about that. It's about that connection. And it's on the business side of things, on the owner side of things. It's about wiping your mind free of the need to come in with a big fucking book of features and benefits to sell to somebody whenever you're meeting down or sitting down with anybody. At the end of the day, you are the value. You're the X factor. You're the person is there for you, and you have that opportunity to showcase yourself.
And so. too many times we'll cloudy the water with what you said, all these added benefits and features and this and that, and trust me, with bar restaurant packages, I got every added value benefit, that just don't get purchased half the time, because again, we're dealing with very low margins for these restaurants, and they do want to be taken care of, they do want to be covered, but maybe cyber liability for a 2-location hamburger joint, just it ain't worth the extra $2,500 that cuts into their profits, because they don't see the value in it, because that's just something that happens to PF Chang's or to Target or something like that. So that's cool, sign off here, we talked about it, awesome. But going back to and I'm in a good position because I put myself in this position. So if you're younger and you're listening and you're growing a business, this is something that I think has worked for me to work towards. And what it is getting to know your craft, get to know it better, educate yourself more and more by becoming parts of groups and surrounding yourself. It's the old cliche of people that are smart. I have sat in rooms with the best of liquor attorneys, government officials, people that aren't in my industry but are in my industry. They're in my industry in the aspect of liquor and the laws and understanding all that stuff. So what happens is over time you gain the respect of them. Next thing you know, you're going to these exclusive meetings that are making laws for the state of Arizona, which I sit on a board that makes laws for the liquor laws of the state of Arizona. You don't think that's not a fucking value to somebody that's going to hire me when I tell them, look, my prices probably will be the same, maybe in some cases a little bit more than this other agent that's written 3 restaurants. But seriously, here's my credentials. Take it or leave it. That's cool.
I am the X factor.
Yeah, and that's cool.
This is what you want me.
But it didn't happen overnight. You for yourself, you have to earn that within yourself and within your business, and want to put the work in.
One thing I always emphasize is that there's many different there's many different ways to play in your field. It doesn't necessarily. A lot of industries are boring. Music industry, I don't think it's boring. But if you're looking at real estate sales, if you're looking at insurance, they can be kind of one color coded, and they can be blah, right? But there's so many different ways to play in that same industry that it doesn't have to be that way. You can find your passion. If your passion is helping, you can use it as think of it as a vehicle. Whatever your business is, it's providing, it's putting out there into the world. It can be a vehicle to carry that passion over. And I think that's really when you start mixing and then looking at things from different perspectives. In those terms, I think that's when magic happens.
So that's a great analogy, and I'll bring up the music business one. But when you look at forming your own business and being the leader of your own business, not every aspect of that business that you need people for, let alone yourself, is going to be that sexy to you. I could, doing the accounting part, I want to shoot myself, I don't mind paying bills and seeing what's in the account and monitoring that, but the aspect of figuring out what's the 30-day on this, what's the 25, no thanks. So again, or even the customer service aspect where you're just documenting files and calling in billing questions. Never. That's not why I'm in insurance or doing what I do. So what I do is I interview people, and I do what I think is putting the best person in based on their personality for the best part of that job. And so when you even look at the music business, there's plenty aspects of the music business that you and I would look at as this is boring as shit. I don't want to be the guy that's in charge. There's all sorts of aspects, in charge of the lights, in charge of the, the sound. But then you get these guys that own these sound companies that they could give a crap less who the artist is. They're all in tune with, they're like, cool, how do I make this sound better? How do I hook this up? How does the logistics go into this? So that's what's so beautiful about...
Some engineers go to town, man. I've seen them. It's crazy.
Yeah, we're all different. That's what's so beautiful about being a human being and us all having the capability to be different and learn from that and enjoy different aspects of who we are.
And choose the playground that you want to play in.
Yeah.
That's the biggest.
It's infinite.
So, and talking about resiliency, and obviously you've been through a lot. How do you manage the tough times whenever they come at you, the curveballs and unexpected challenges, anything that's thrown at you? How do you manage that stuff?
I've had a lot of interesting times. I've had to work a lot. I've had times where I've thrown shit. I've had times where I've responded to emails way too fast, and then I look back and I'm like, uh-oh. You know, that's definitely maybe a number 4 lesson for the younger entrepreneurs out there, where it's
Do not
tell them to fuck off right away. Maybe think about it, you know?
But give yourself 5 minutes.
Yeah, because it just that you cannot retract that email. So again, that comes down to experience and
Gold right there.
Yeah, and understanding all that. And so
I've done it.
I think through those values and through those lessons, if you don't let ego take control of really who you are from the inside, and you understand that this is just a moment, and it's just a moment in time that will no longer be a moment in time. And so how do we make the next moment better than the last? And so to get through the hard times, it really comes down to, for me, it's what I put in my body, how I feel, because if you feel like shit and you're having hard times, it ain't gonna get any better. How I physically am able to go out and be blessed to go for a walk with my dogs, or be able to do 100 push-ups a day, or to do stretching, any of that sort of stuff that makes your physical body feel better. And then the whole focus aspect, it's really just taking, whether it's 5 minutes or a half hour, whatever it is, to just go sit alone. And whether it's reading a book, or whether it's just closing your eyes, or listening to Coach Al, or you know, whatever it is, those 3 things right there are my interconnectivity, you know, food, focus, fitness, or my interconnectivity to make, to help myself stay on a level plateau. Because I used to fall into that situation like my father, blood related, and he still gets stressed out over shit that means nothing. I will look at him and I'll find myself getting stressed out or frustrated at him because he's frustrated. And so I even had to focus on that and say, that's not my issue. That's who he is. I'm not going to change that, but I can't allow myself to fall into that. So to get frustrated over something that you have zero control over, the only thing you have control over is yourself, you know? So those are the 3 gifts that allow me to get through stress.
That's awesome. The reaching the level of awareness that you have now, it's I mean, it's not easy, especially if it's not something that was kind of you were, you know, brought up around as a child. It takes a lot of work, and you're completely right. I mean, situations are not happening to us, or happening, and then we just happen to be, you know, the spectators of them. Now we either choose to, you know, hold on to those and you know, grab them, put them in our pockets, and throw them into our hearts, and then, you know, create all those emotions behind them, or we can, you know, remain the spectator of the situation and then be aware of how is that, you know, triggering me, if it is, and then why is it triggering me, and then kind of going back through the self-conscious part of it, and then, you know, working on yourself that way. Because I mean, those red flags that come along, you know, they're the best opportunities for growth, man. I mean, when I get pissed off, and I don't do it that often, I still get pissed off.
Yeah, of course,
you know, like everybody else, but it doesn't happen that often where I lose my shit.
Right.
And even now, even when I do, and like I snap, I'm able to recover a lot faster, a lot easier, just because I'm aware of that space.
Yes.
Okay, cool. And I own it, leave my ego out of it, and then I start kind of, you know, breaking things down. And once you do, it's surprisingly, it's never as bad as it initially kind of feels like.
I don't think the emotion of getting wrapped up in being angry per se it will ever leave a person. It all comes down to how you deal with it and how you're able to recognize it and be like, okay, cool, I need to, like, this will, like, I can't do that. The issue that I have is that I still have that's just something that's within me. I don't think it ever goes away in that sense. And so sometimes I may lash out a little bit more too harshly on the people that are closest to me because I know they're safe, you know? So that's definitely a work because, you know, my wife is, I mean, she's my life, you know, I love her more than anything.
Great person, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Super cool energy.
Yeah, but what's interesting about that is our dynamic is we challenge each other in a good way. And sometimes when I get home from working and I feel like I have all the answers and I get challenged a little bit, I may snap at her and there's no rhyme or reason. Like, it's just so unjustified and ridiculous. So, you know, that it's interesting how you can take work home in many different facets. It's not necessarily being on email or this and that. It's how you treat your spouse, your partner, I mean, what your kids, whatever it is, the animals, you know, it's like, you just got to be cool.
One thing that I started doing a while back, it's like just putting everybody on notice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if I'm feeling edgy for some reason, sometimes, you know, just a breathing technique will handle it. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Some other times, I mean, it may take that and a couple of whiskeys, but
yeah.
but I don't know. You work with it, right? But sometimes it just feels like your pissed off cup is you know getting to that point. So, you know, I'll just let everybody know I'm feeling a little edgy. So I want to step outside, you know, be in my own shit for a little bit, and then I'll come back, you know, and when
I think I heard a podcast where they had created a situation so a guy was talking about how he would literally come home from work, sit in his car for 10 minutes, and then just kind of get out everything that there was, and then make this commitment that once he, you know, went in, he had cleared all that, you know, out of his way, which really makes sense because so many times we'll just come home, blaze in, and it's like, well, wait a minute.
Well, you're carrying all that with you.
You're carrying
the day with you.
Yeah, and so for me, if I can get rid of it and then acknowledge, okay, when I walk in this door, I'm going to pet the dogs, I'm going to kiss my wife, tell her I missed her, and then it just starts the tone even better. And I still have to get better at that because I'm so go. You know, it's like, how fast can I get in there and eat dinner, you know?
Dude, the crappy thing about it is that, you know, as we're going boom like that all day long, it's even hard to disconnect. Even when you're feeling like, when I start feeling like okay, I'm getting a little edgy and I'm still working, like I'll be glued on to whatever it is I'm doing because I want to get it done. Like I get into that, you know, Terminator mode, and it's not healthy for my my mindset. It's not healthy because I'll get into that, you know, Terminator mode, and then next thing you know, I turn into the fucking Terminator with all kinds of, you know, bad vibes and stuff. So, and
the thing is, the work's always going to be there. Yeah. Whether you do it now or later, it's always going to be there.
One of my friends, real good friend of mine, Jason Bonfanti, he's do you know him? He's also worked with Al. But we're talking about this, and it's the analogy that we use was or is it's I mean, whenever something hits you, it's like looking at this big dog, right? You have a big old dog in front of you, and it starts, you know, to bite you, and it hurts, and it just gets so graphic, it's slobbery, it's huge, and then, like, you start, you know, bleeding, and it's just nasty.
Right.
But as you start to control your emotions, as you start to be more aware of all this, you know, stuff that's triggering you, the dog gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So the dog, here's the thing, a little fucker will never leave.
No.
But I mean, it'll become like a little ankle biter instead of this big ass massive dog that would bite you and then just put you out of commission for the whole day.
That's so true.
And it's a good imagery that I like to bring back whenever something, you know, something's kind of going haywire. Or like, all right, this is a big ass dog. I need to acknowledge that. Yeah. Be aware of it, and then.
Well, it's kind of like, you know, when I grew up in Atlanta, I used to do a lot of landscaping. You know, as a kid, you make $10 an hour pulling weeds, and I would get poison ivy. And if you don't know poison ivy, it's horrible. So if you just put the calamine lotion on it and you don't scratch it and you just leave it be, it'll heal. But if you keep scratching it, you're screwed. Like it just gets worse and worse and worse. So you know, it's just kind of like anything. The more that you know, put effort, the more you put effort into something, no matter what it is, the bigger the result. Yeah. So if it's something bad, you're gonna get a bigger bad result.
Oof. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's on the money. So here's the other thing that I want to talk to you about. We when we met, we were actually going through a Reiki 2 training. And I mean, it's just a different type of meditation for those who don't know what Reiki is. It's a way to connect and kind of channel the energy and be more of you everywhere you go. Right. I mean, that's how I see it. But meditation for me has been a total game changer. And I don't do it religiously. I mean, sometimes I'll miss it. I have this morning ritual that I kind of go through. But sometimes, you know, it doesn't happen every single day. So
Yeah.
I'm not
I'm with you.
I'm not on my way to becoming a Buddhist monk, or by any means.
You're
But
running 3 companies. Yeah.
it creates that space for me to stay sane. It kind of brings in that counterbalance of all the taskiness and all the all of the human side, of things that are happening around me, right? And it just kind of brings it back onto the self. Now, how has that type of work impacted everything from your years in the music industry to owning your businesses and running your people, your employees, and creating those those bonds, and of course reaching the level of success that you currently have now?
So really just kind of the meditation aspect of yeah. Oh God, I'm a very high strung Italian, so that can color a picture for people listening. And I'm a spaz, and so even in my younger years, meditation was not a part of what I did. Really, alcohol was a part of what I did, and I was even crazier. It would let me lose myself and lose my mind. So again, it reverted back to running to me, and I never gave up running. I've been running since I was 9 years old, and when I say running, I'm not like Joe Olympia. It's like 3 to 5 miles a day, but it was always something that I did that was constant in my life, and I always had, and I enjoy it. And so that was, I think, the first aspect of meditation, and always understanding that if I just kept the focus and I kept the subconscious working with the conscious, I was able to achieve and do anything and have that drive, that will, that want, that drive, that everything, always thinking, always doing stuff. As I became more of a business owner and I realized that, yelling at people or, doing certain things that probably weren't that great, it wasn't working for me. I realized that I had to come at things maybe from a different approach, and so I started getting more in tune with learning about, just the meditation aspect of life, and understanding that by doing that, it can really improve my relationship with just myself, knowing that if I were to do that and improve myself, and really think about things before I said them, or hitting the enter button before I sent the email or this and that, just by breathing, bringing all that in, that has bar none helped me more than anything. And this is a practice that I've probably just taken up in the last 5 years of and like you, I don't do it every day. I mean, I did just build a meditation tower at my house that overlooks the mountains.
So
and
cool.
So, yeah, so it's cool to wake up in the morning,
So
even when
cool.
it's freezing ass cold out, and walk around, and I just sit there, and even though I'm just closing my eyes for 5 minutes and just stating, today is the greatest day of my life. I'm going to make some great connections, and I'm going to spread love. I mean, if that's all that it is, then that's all that it is. And there's it doesn't have to be more. It doesn't have to be less. It doesn't have to be anything. And so that alone, the last 5 years of creating it, it's just completely changed my life, my perspective, and has given me I'm still a high-strung, like spastic, passionate person, but I like to utilize all that energy for productivity and not unproductivity.
Oh, you channel it now.
Yes.
Yes.
100%.
So you find a way to channel it. I think that there's a lot of skepticism when it comes to spending time with yourself.
Yeah.
And not producing results with your hands. And it's incredible for me to think that you can do a lot more when you own your space, and you have that connection going back and forth, that flow. I mean, results just seem to happen a lot easier, a lot faster. Opportunities get bigger, problems get solved a lot easier. But it's not through the hammer and nail. It's more through that connection. And the way to tap into that for me has been meditation. There's a lot of skepticism in general, I guess, that about whether or not does it work. And is it something that no, it's kind of crazy, it's out there, it's wishful thinking, it's not going to do anything, I'm just sitting there, like I'm wasting time.
Right.
I used to subscribe to that. That's why every time I have somebody in front of me who are, that we're having a conversation with, and I know they're big on that. I like to tap into that. So to paint a bigger picture of what the features and benefits, right? To call it anything of spending time with yourself and getting to know yourself at a deeper level, and improving that connection with yourself and what it can do to transform your life, your perspective as an entrepreneur, the results that you can get, the impact that you can get, and how it can actually help you create purpose and meaning when a lot of times it's just not, it's not there. We're, for the most part, everybody's so tasky and caught up on the daily stuff. There's not enough space in between these 2 ears that we have to create a blank, area where we can actually plug ourselves in.
So I'll throw a real simplistic aspect to what you just said. And I love the blank, the blank canvas. I mean, our mind is just a field of availability to create and to do art and do all that. But here's something very simple. If you were just to take 5 minutes out of your day, sit in silence, and journal whatever comes to mind, and look back on that journal entry, and then what if out of that silence some of your best ideas came? What if your next business deal came? What if your next idea to approach this and that? And what is it? 5 minutes of your day? How much time do you spend, thumbing through social media and seeing, who's the next biggest asshole for president? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
and then getting all caught up on whatever side you're on. Like, oh my God, there's a right. Like, dude, it's 5 minutes, dudette, it's 5 minutes, like whatever, right? What do you have to lose? And again, when I say, like, if we all sat together and for 5 minutes, all has a world, and just closed our eyes and just repeated the word love and just sat there with our eyes closed, people would say, well, what's that going to do? What's it not going to do? Mm-hmm. Like, what's the harm in it?
Right.
What's the harm in sitting in silence and not watching Netflix for 3 hours a day? Maybe you only watch it for 2 hours and 55 minutes.
Yeah. Take 5 for yourself.
Yeah.
And this is something so real, man. The amount of energy, the amount of positivity that can be put together in one single place, you can actually feel it. Mm-hmm. I mean, we were doing 2 weeks ago. We were doing
100%.
It's incredible dynamics and meditation exercises, and it was insane. I mean, my hands were on fire. It was. I mean, when you there's a point where it actually becomes tangible, but I think it's gonna test you.
Yeah.
For a long time. Before you. I mean, you have to see it when it's not there.
Well, but do you know why people think it's weird and it's hokey and this and that? Because it is, but the reason why why it is because not enough people have realized the gift of what it brings, and therefore it's so outside the norm. Mm-hmm. You know what's weird and hokey to me is, and again, no offense, I like to play Star Wars every now and then, but it's sitting in front of a computer screen for 3 hours a day and having your eyes bleed, and you've accomplished nothing, I get it has an entertainment value, and they're totally cool, but seriously, like, getting together with a group of people that all have love and positivity, and you're creating this energy that is real. It's real. They can document.
Absolutely.
They can show this in science that this connectivity is real. This excitement, this passion. What's wrong with that?
Yeah. Yep. It just hasn't been tapped into or
it's not mainstream.
It hasn't exactly. It hasn't made it mainstream.
Yep.
But it's I don't know. It's something insane. Definitely a game changer for me for the way that I perform. I can tell. I know it's done the same thing for you.
Yeah.
So it's nothing out of this world, man. It's just a different way of understanding. And the funny thing is that at the base of the whole thing, it's understanding us. The being, the essence that we are, the power that we are, and then building and coming from that space, which that's how it should be from the get-go.
Yeah.
But I think we're designed or conditioned to begin backwards.
For sure.
I mean, begin from the outside in. Okay, what do we need from the outside? What can we get from the outside?
Think for ourselves.
Yeah, what can we bring to the outside? But it's not, it's hardly ever looking at the inside. And when you stand strong and connected and aware with your inner being,
Yeah.
everything else around you just kind of becomes second. You know, the problems, they look a lot smaller. I don't even know how to explain it, man.
Well,
It's
there's no
help me out here.
look, in a true human being, there really is there's no color, there's no shape, there's no nothing. Okay, it's nothing. All this is a vehicle. I honestly believe this is just a vehicle. Because think
Right.
about it. Once we're gone, nobody really knows what happens. That's cool, but this whole I mean, it just rots in the earth like
Right.
soil. I mean, not to be grim, but that's the reality of it. Or it gets blended up in a heater somewhere. So the thing is that we all have this inner ability to create love and passion, and know that we all have that same design to really interconnect with each other. And if you put me in a room and we all had blindfolds on and we all talked from a sense of downloading love or this and that, would it matter if it's men, women, color, gay? What? It doesn't fucking matter. And that's what's so beautiful about it. And I'm hoping with what's going on in 2020, there's some sort of reverberation of that appreciation of people understanding that, we are one. We need to work together. We need to be, passionate just about, passion.
I think there's definitely something going on at a energetical level.
Yeah.
I can't put my finger on it, but I mean, I know it's gonna have ripple effects like a motherfucker. And you're completely right, man. You're completely right. At the end of the day, we're all just energy beings, and it doesn't matter what the vehicle looks like, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. This is coming at us, and the reason I kind of put you on the spot is because I mean you're a professional. You're somebody who's been in business for a long time, and it's not woo talk or wishful thinking. It's actually one of the biggest tools that gives you the results that you have in the flow that you have now.
Correct.
So,
and I'm not ashamed of it, and,
Yeah.
and I promote it.
yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, people ask me about it. I mean, of course, I won't. I'm still at the stage where I won't go tapping shoulders to talk, about this to
Right,
people.
yeah.
But it's one of those conversations, man. And you know what I'm finding out too, that it gets a lot more interesting a lot faster than it used to even a couple of years back. So I think people are more open to it. They're more receptive to just the inner connection and more aware that it can happen
100%.
and that it is one of the fundamentals.
You know
of
why?
life.
Because they want it to happen now. They want it.
Yeah, and I think we're just as a society kind of pivoting into that place where it's gonna be it's a lot more receptive now than it was a couple of years ago. So I'm excited to see how that looks like. But yeah, man. So absolutely. And then Reiki is the way for me. Like I've tried a couple of different ways.
Yeah.
If you haven't looked into Reiki, look into Reiki. It goes beyond the scope of this podcast. But
There's a cool history behind it too.
Yeah. Reiki meditation is awesome. So thanks, man. I appreciate you stopping by and then
This
just
is fun. Yeah.
sharing gold. So if somebody wants to get a hold of you, or actually no, let me backtrack here. Favorite question: if you were walking down the street and you ran into your 17-year-old self, what would you tell that kid?
I would tell my 17-year-old self at this point to do everything every day to really enjoy the moment, and not to get so lost in what's coming next. So I think those times of spending time, playing baseball with and running around the neighborhood and doing a lot of that stuff. I think when you're little, you do get caught in those moments and you enjoy that. And so, maybe when you're 17 is when you start to lose a little bit of that, because you're always like, you're turning into an adult and you're trying to jump to the next phase of what's this and that. And you have all the time in the world to adult and to be that. So it's like, even now I have to sit here and be like, when I'm sitting here with my dad and my mom, knowing that there's, if the way a progression goes, there's limited time I will have with them. So when I'm there, I need to really work on being present. So being present, I mean, it's so generic and it's so overly used and said, but it's just so true. And so that's the advice I'd give to my
Beautiful. I love it. I like how you ground yourself right before before an answer, and I think it's also one of the most overlooked things, just to be present, be there. It can come a little harder to some people, but at the end of the day, I mean, that's what matters.
Well, think about it for people that are listening that are busy entrepreneurs. I get it. Monday through Friday, it's like deals. What's going on? Bam, 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 this and that. And so for me to be able to sit in a room with you and talk to you for an hour and not have my phone on me, not be worried about, oh my God, what emails are coming in. I mean, I used to be like that. I'd be like, oh my God, what if I have emails after this? Oh, it's going to be okay, because it'll still be there when you get done. If you're a type A personality, it'll probably be done by the time you get, in your car, so it's okay to let that shit go and be here in the moment. Like I was in the moment with you. It makes the experience that much more enjoyable. So whether it's with you or on an appointment or having, dinner with my wife or whatever, just lose the phone. Just do what you can to and just enjoy the moment, because you won't get that moment back ever. Not the same.
Yep. I get. I love it when how I know when I'm in the moment, when I forget to take pictures or video. It's. I mean, sometimes I'll have great conversations. I mean, countless of podcasts. I mean, we've sat down and I forget. I don't take a single picture. Yeah. Like that's why I do. Like we did it right when we got started. Yeah. Because afterwards, I'm still there. I'm still in that space. And that's kind of when I feel like, all right, I was present. I was there. But yeah. That's true. So. Yeah, man. Thank you. So, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, how do they do that?
Instagram right now is a really easy way. I have I am and then the DeLo, so DELO. That's my personal page where, again through Coach Al, there's not different. I'm not a different person no matter what I do. So whether it's insurance, whether it's my, my ebook that I'm writing, which is going to be the 3F system, which I'll be releasing into this month, or whether it's Ambassador Group or my social media company, it's all within me. So the I Am the DeLo brand kind of curtails all that. Now I do have, the website Bar and Restaurant Insurance, and I do have Ambassador Group and all that. But, really Instagram or Facebook. My real name is David DeLorenzo. So, but I'm easy to find.
DeLo Sticks.
DeLo Sticks, yeah. For sure.
I love that. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, brother. I appreciate you spending the time and
awesome.
Just opening up and then having that awesome conversation that we just had. So
very cool.
Yeah, thank you. It's a wrap.
Awesome.
You just got a backstage pass to the real, the raw, and the mind of entrepreneurship. Make sure you follow us on YouTube and iTunes, and check out our website at ceopulse.com. Stay tuned, stay focused, you got this.